Hey everybody, this is Silver Spook, and this is the Silver Spook video on Syndemic 2 Group Anti-Think versus Lone Strugglers for the Collective. Let's talk about the contagion, AI, and human social needs, survival needs, and who actually has the resolve to sacrifice for the good of all. So obviously this is now holiday season. Happy holidays to everybody. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good holidays month, whatever you celebrate, whether that's Christmas or Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, etc. Or you just have various get-togethers with various people. Now is a good time for this update, and also simultaneously continued commentary and review of a show that we have been having a great time with, Pluribus, and is also relevant, and also a PSA. That character in the back there is a character I played called the Lone Masker in a PSA video called the Lone Masker that I made about almost 2 years ago now. I think it's still relevant. I just wanna because I know there's some in the CC community, you know who you are, that are around the Silver Street Cooperative. We are part of that group. This is a rough time for a lot of people. I was talking to Holly about this movie Mixed Nuts with Steve Martin. It's about people who, a group of kind of nutty people who take calls from depressed and sad, mentally distraught, and mentally ill people, who ask the young women working at this suicide prevention hotline to talk dirty to them while they say they're writing the women's names in cheese. There's a line. I want to write your name in cheese. Anyway, so I'll tell you that's a movie about the rough times that people go through around the holidays. It's a time when people are getting in together in groups, seeing families and friends, visiting, flying in planes, gathering in large numbers, it's a time that really heightens a lot of emotions that people have for their fellow humans that they have complex feelings towards individually, whether that's like a parent who doesn't accept your gender identity or has been really abusive over the years or really distant, or you just don't like that family member for whatever reason. But they're still your family, and you spent years and decades of your life is wrapped up with them psychologically, emotionally, historically, and maybe financially. And so it's complicated, as all human societal things are. And I've just been thinking about that. We're doing a lot of our own Christmas events around the Silver Spoon Cooperative. We just actually did a bunch of Christmas shopping yesterday, at the mall, masked, so as not to so as to we struggled for the collective. Actually, mine was a little bit looser than I wanted it to, so I want to keep tightening it, because it wasn't. I also was a bit drier yesterday, so things feel a little bit different. It doesn't quite feel right. I think it's your skin, your dermal tissue loses its moisture, and then it feels a little different. And that was a struggle. So that was struggling for the collective health of all, to prevent viral contagion of various kinds. Um, and so I just kind of like was like reflecting and ruminating on that, and I was like, now is a good time to make a video specifically targeting this topic, or it's kind of a cluster of topics. And before I forget, I gotta say, Neofeud is on sale, so that's where all the Neofeud is a retro adventure game that supports the anti-groupthink, quadruple A game capitalist, but also the collective struggle for economic liberation, as well as it's what's Silver Spoon Cooperative here, and it's also a game that it was a struggle to put that together individually as a lone struggler solo indie game dev. That was rough, but it had to be done that way. So that's another example. A lot of these videos in the last month has been talking about collective versus individual, and toxic individuality versus healthy individuality as part of a relational member of human civilization and social groups. So sometimes you have to make games yourself, for better or for worse, and it can be hard. It can be isolating. That's certainly the case with Neofeud 2. That's something I've also been thinking about a lot as well. But sometimes it has to be that way, in various circumstances. In particular, as an indie dev, because I could not make Neofeud as the groupthink of making Flappy Bird, just one example, the groupthink of making large but kind of rote, unoriginal, big AAA games, or just like making games for capitalist corporations, right? Like EA, like Activision, and even smaller, but all about the dollars, all about the bottom line. Unfortunately, I see that Microsoft, Paramount, these Warner Brothers have bought up a lot of studios that are. I was like looking forward to a bunch of these games, and I see that their prices. There's a Terminator game. There is a 90s FPS called Blood that's being remade, and the prices are like way higher than some of these recent remakes by some of the same devs were, and that's the group think of. Let's all make the most money that we can. Screw the quality, screw the people that work on the games, and that under the ideology of a capitalist system, doing everything for the money, for maximizing your own personal wealth, particularly of the executives of these companies, and that group think is toxic, and that's a group anti-think that is destroying the world, right? Obviously, in many ways, the game industry, entertainment as a whole, including weaponizing malfunctioning, broken, badly programmed software that is called AI, to enslopify and wreck all entertainment, all art, and humanity in general. So those are all group anti-think examples, and there's sometimes individually we have to make indie games and then not work with the large group publishing entities. Like that's Neofeud. I published it not as I independently published it. I declared independent game business. I declared it to the fake state of Hawaii. I declared it to the colonizer occupation state of Hawaii. And so I'm Silver Spoon Games business, and I'm going to release this game myself because nobody wants to take a game that's going to critique capitalism and these plutocratic and colonial structures and Bill Gates and the Walton family, which I directly did inside of Neofeud. That's one reason as people said that we will not publish your game. So sometimes you have to struggle again. Like the group says, no, you can't do that. You cannot critique these things. You cannot talk about these issues. And then sometimes you have to say, well, I'm going to talk about these issues. I'm going to critique. I'm going to attack those issues because that's what needs to be done. And if you're in a very anti-thinking group, in of various concentric circles, whether that's in health, whether that's in economics, whether that's in global struggles, whether that's like racial struggles, whether that's of various kinds. Sometimes you have to, I'm watching The Prisoner also. The Prisoner, Patrick McGoohan, 1960s. It's kind of the show that was his. He suffered for that one. He sacrificed a lot of possible career potential maybe for that one after he played the PG version of James Bond basically on British TV, and it's a good show. I mean, like, it critiques so many things. I'm gonna make a whole video about that, but he stands on his own in the main character against the village where retired intelligence agents of various countries go. Where did they go? And they go to this place that's basically, on its face, a very nice retirement community with 80-year-old ex, British and French admirals playing chess, and all the spies who didn't shag James Bond or did, just walking about buying their groceries. But it's not really a retirement home. It's actually a prison. They can't leave, right? But you don't see the walls until you push against the edge of the matrix, against the wallpaper of the matrix, until you poke at the fake horizon of the Truman Show. You don't realize, then you realize it's a prison. But if you don't think about it, it's kind of pleasant. But inside that, but he asked anyway. So I'm not going to go too much on that because it's not. That's what. But like that's another. It's relevant to Pluribus and to this topic because it's in various ways he has to stand to great suffering, including being tortured. He has to stand for what he, believes, and he's very defiant. Like, he's constantly like looking through his eyebrows. It's like a symbol, like a bull seeing red. He's like constantly in a rage. But it's like, and sometimes there's toxic individualism. If you're individualistic because you simply I personally want to make as much money as possible, like a Elon Musk or a Bill Gates, that's not a good thing. I personally want to drive 90 miles per hour on a highway for your own selfish, reckless need to feel like a NASCAR driver or something, or toxically copy Vin Diesel and Fast and the Furious, in highways, which caused the increase in accidents at one point. I mean, as great a show as it is, if you actually do that in areas where it's crowded streets or unsafe, I mean, it's going to cause other people's, not just your death, it could cause other people's injury and death. And so speeding, obviously smoking, right? Well, I just want, and smoking was one of the, speaking of public health, because that's part of this topic, right? Which is public health PSA. Like, it was deemed like, well, I choose to smoke and you can choose to not smoke. But then it was recognized that, like, actually when you do that, your individual choice to smoke or not smoke, if you smoke inside of a restaurant, inside of an office, inside of a bus or a plane, which people used to smoke everywhere, that is damaging everyone's lungs, increasing the risk of cancer, heart disease. And you can personally harm your own health, and you say, well, I just like smoking. I'll accept the increases of cancer risk. I'll accept my shortened lifespan. But it's a toxic individuality, because then it's not just you're impacting everyone around you, right? So, and it also could be toxic because you're just flagrantly disregarding your own health, right? Which is kind of another comorbid with depression and disconnection, or it's kind of infantileness and lack of of rearing of various kinds. Anyways, so let me make sure my chat is working. It's it's complicated because, and obviously in the last couple weeks, like as I brought up, we've been watching the Pluribus show, which is, again, I highly recommend it if you haven't watched it. Well, I'm not gonna drop too much in the way of I'm trying not to drop too much in the way of spoilers, but I highly recommend it. Holly also likes it a lot, I think. There you go. But it's I made a video recently that was on the topic called Hive Minds. So I got a lot of windows open, so I'm gonna hope please don't break. It's called Hive Minds versus communities versus ragged individualism. Okay, the last one was the Soil and the Blue episode, but before that, the first Pluribus video I made, I have a whole bunch of links open. Oh no, come on, computer, don't break. It's called Ragged Individualism, Community, and Hive Minds. And so in this one, I talked about how an individualistic people, an individualism, right, is that exists in a lot of places. It's emphasized more in certain cultures. Obviously in Western culture, there's more emphasis on individual rights. The selfish pursuit of my happiness, property, etc., life, liberty, property, is kind of enshrined in a lot of Western culture, and that becomes a problem in a lot of situations. Obviously, when it comes to individuals pursuing their own wealth, despite having billions, and then some people having mountains of wealth that they could never possibly use in their life, and then while others go hungry, are impoverished, are homeless, and go without. And so that's a toxic aspect of that individualism. I was talking about ragged individualism. I was obliquely referencing, obviously, Ronald Reagan and his rugged individualism, which he ran, and he won on that idea as an independent literal cowboy. He played famously cowboys on the silver screen in Hollywood, and he became president. One of the biggest landslide victories of a U.S. president ever, based on this idea of the Lone Ranger, the lone cowboy. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Like that concept, that phrase was like directly harkening back to the cowboy movies, which were intentionally put out by, as we like to bring up, Hollywood in the McCarthy era during the Cold War, under guidance from famous anti-communist, anti-collectivist Ayn Rand, who said always celebrate the individual, and you can look up the motion pictures for the motion pictures Ayn Rand. I'm actually get it on screen. I always bring this up. Because it is really relevant today. The screen guide for Americans, written by Ayn Rand for Hollywood, which is about glorifying individuals and individual industrialists and de-emphasizing collectives. Don't take politics lightly is obviously number one. So everything is political. Like, this is instructions to Hollywood that's been followed. Everything is political. All film and all entertainment is political, number one. Free enterprise, promote free enterprise, promote industrialists, individual industrialists. Wealth, greed is good. This is quote Gordon Gekko, don't smear wealth. Which is don't smear, she means support those things. The profit motive, success, individual success in business, capitalist success. There's a whole bunch about community, right? The common man the regular people, which just don't deify. What she really means is denigrate those and push those down. The common people, right? The masses, community is not what needs to be celebrated. That is what has destroyed humanity. She wrote a book called Anthem, which delves more into that, and attack the collective. Support the independent man. Promote independent people. Support the United States political. Support the U.S. government. Okay. Anyways, support the CIA. No. But so anyways, so that actually is directly discusses this topic of the group versus the group anti-think versus lone strugglers, right? Because now the thing is, like, I'm not saying that because obviously there are things that need to be addressed, but there's times when individual thought is necessary, and that is part of a strong collective human society. Right? If everything is simply if everybody is simply trying to maintain the group no matter what, right? That's when things like group anti-think can come about, right? Such as, for example, people collectively ignoring the impact of known, scientifically proven, really damaging, deadly viruses, right? And we know which ones we're talking about. Groupthink such as the collective, willful or collective, conscious or unconscious inactions, whether that's the viruses, whether that's masking, or whether that's the climate change is a little bit more complex. It's a little bit less immediately. There's more systemic changes that have to happen. The pandemic is actually one that's most directly tied to a lot of individual actions. Yes, there are large actions the governments can do. However, if 80% of people masked, given the rates of transmission of it would be eliminated within a couple months from the earth. If 80% of people masked. Other viruses would too. Flu, many colds, RSV. Many of these could be eliminated from the planet. If not even 100%, if 80%, but it means 80% of everyone masking correctly. Also, not wearing the baggy blue 3-layer mask that Britain is only now. Britain is using it because they're being overrun again. Their health system is being, crisis levels, inundated with sick people, and so now they're reinstating mask rules inside of the UK hospitals, but the masks they're wearing them incorrectly because they're not wearing them to prevent airborne transmission. They're wearing the 3-layer mask the way that if you want to prevent droplet spread, for example, from a surgeon into a patient undergoing a quadruple bypass or something, or some kind of surgery, that's like droplets from your mouth or droplets from the patient getting into blood, getting into the mouth of the surgeon, right? Or something. But that's not, they're still not doing it right. That's more group anti-think. Even that. It's anti-scientific. Incorrect practices that are being copied by people. It's even worse to do nothing. That's completely anti-scientific practices that is being mass copied, and everyone is just mass adopting that really wrong think because everyone else is doing it. But then there's also individuals, but even those that are trying in this haphazard, half-hearted, definitely not enough attempt to control the spread. They're not even like looking up the actual science. They're not listening even to basic speeches by Violet Affleck. You think that Ben Affleck, right, one of the biggest celebrities on the world, like his daughter, would get more attention. But that just shows you that's the power of group anti. I think is like if and the fear of people of the FOMO, fear of missing out, and it's not just fear of missing out. It's also the collective. It's also the fear of losing one's social needs and not getting the social interactions that people do need. The thing is that in prisons, right, isolation, solitary confinement is considered torture. It's considered a violation of human rights rules, right? It's considered like war crime because of how destructive it is. It can cause people to lose their entire mind. It can destroy the mind. People begin hallucinating. They go into downward spirals of depression. Their mind you can begin to like fray, like really like disintegrate. And so it's considered it's considered inhumane, right? It's considered cruel and unusual to isolate people. And so now some people self-isolate, not in solitary confinement. Some people, do spend a lot of time alone. It's unusual for anyone to completely spend all their time alone, except for in some worse circumstances. But it's so people do have a need for social interaction, right, and social rewards. It's also economic and financial needs. Like if you work at a job and if you mask, you're gonna get fired. That's there's an economic and financial need to just pay your bills, right? On top of social needs that you get, because you get economic and financial rewards going to a restaurant, working at an office, working at McDonald's, even if you don't really like McDonald's. But you interact with people, even if you don't really like them. Like Pluribus doesn't really like her. The Pluribus protagonist, Carol, doesn't like her own readership, her own audience that buys her books. She's an author. She doesn't like them, but she still gets social interaction from them, however slight, and from her partner. That's the one person she really interacts a lot with. And however much she don't like them, she still gets something from being kind of badgery and snidely commenting at them. And she does like their praise. She likes that. She likes getting everyone showering her with all of their love of her work, despite how little she thinks of them, because she thinks her books are just written for the sheeples. They're not very bright. She calls her own work basically not AI slop, but she calls it like, this is just run of the mill trashy historical fantasy romance about hot pirates sailing around on sand, which is a popular genre. Pirates sailing around on sand. What is it? The Shadow and Bone. There's that one show. I was watching some of that. The popular genre. Not pirates. They're corsairs. They're officially sanctioned by British or French or some other European government or some government to do privateering of other ships. Anyway. So people need interaction. Even if it's not always the best interaction. If you don't have any, that's the topic of the most recent episode 7 of Pluribus. Then you can go through. She starts going through extremes. She starts having suicidal ideation. She does start to kind of lose it, and is becoming more and more really depressed. And like she really starts to really crave the interaction. However much she doesn't like the hive mind in the Pluribus TV show now, and however much she doesn't really like people. Give me a sec. or actually, now is a good time to take a short break, and I'll just do a quick news, Silver Spook news, and I'll come back to the rest of this Syndemic video. Neofeud is on sale. Don't forget to grab it. On sale on the Steam store or also on itch.io. As I said, this is a game that I did as a solo dev, indie game dev. It took me about 2.5 years, and it is about a homeless social worker, or a nearly homeless social worker for robots and half human chimeras, an ex-con robot who jailbroke out of the prison for ghettoized robots, and a ex-trillionaire princess who fight unplugged Matrix agents, or with unplugged Matrix agents, neo-feudal royalty in floating palaces with AI-powered planet-wide Skynet control systems under their purview, and space-time travelers, John Connor lookalikes, hippie anti-war Terminators, and lots of other hijinks to be had in this game that I spent 2.5 years working on, and does support everything we do at the Silver Spook Cooperative. And it's also anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, and anti-racist, native Hawaiian created cyberpunk science fiction. So if you like that, don't forget to grab this game, which is out now. One other thing is there's the Silver Spook album, the Silver Spook, or my Neofeud 2 soundtrack is now done. And because I don't know exactly when, and I see that other devs have done this, I'm releasing the Neofeud 2 soundtrack a bit ahead of the game itself. So you can now get the Neofeud 2 soundtrack and all of its music, which is over 1 hour, 15 minutes of music, on Bandcamp and also on Ko-Fi. So yeah, don't consider grabbing that. And now I'm going to play a trailer for Neofeud 2, which is also includes some of the music from the Neofeud 2 soundtrack. Okay. So anyway, that's the Neofeud 2, which is coming soon. Just a little update. I am currently in the polishing phase of Neofeud 2 game dev. So yeah, the game's coming soon. I am just I was actually just working on the final, like I'm brushing up, perfecting, smoothing out the final version of the intro sequence right now. And yeah, it's going really well. I think I want to kind of I had like just a basic. It's like a conversation between various Neofeudal royalty, but I'm adding some scenes in that will kind of give more to kind of flesh out and give better visuals for that intro sequence. So it's a bit more like a Neofeud 1. Anyways, that's the game updates. Okay, let's go back to our regularly scheduled programming. Okay. So groupthink versus lone strugglers for the collective. Let me do the PSA part now, really, because I feel like I should have done that earlier. In case you don't know, just the information. We have a whole bunch of videos we have put out. I tried to get a bunch of them. Holly probably has more. But we have, as I said, we have been talking about these topics of the problems with and the dangers of this particular, not the pluribus virus, the real world pathogen that is infecting everyone continuously. I think it's on average about 1 to 1.5 times per year for Americans, but it's around the world. And so, this is from last year. Pan disintegration update. We have Syndemic. That's from 2 years ago. This is I try to do at least one around winter, Christmas time, holiday season, because this is when there's increased illnesses across the board, including our good friend the big airborne C, not the big C, but the big airborne C, which also causes the C. That's when your cells begin to mutate and have a toxic individuality within your body, within the corpus of your body. And so, but the Syndemic was 2 years ago. We have, there's at least several videos, once every 6 months or more. We've been trying to do a video for the last 6 years. We've been trying to do a video on the topic of, viral control because of how important it is. And as I said, we haven't stopped masking that entire time. There's obviously the permademic, the immunity debt lie. Let me see if I can get some of these threads here. Here is a recent update. Capitalism is disabling you and then finding innovative ways to profit off your disability. This is just another one from within the last week. There are several healthcare industry reports showing various sales trends with data-driven factors provided. The latest is loss of taste and smell, anosmia, expecting to reach 4.1 billion by 2034, with increasing long COVID cases and viral infections being major catalysts. So, chronic smell and flavor loss market size. So, destroying people's ability to smell and taste. That's one of the impacts of airborne big C. That it causes, it's weird. It's kind of messed up, but there's potential because people can't taste and smell properly. More money can be made and more products can be sold to people. Because of that, there's a whole they could actually tell like when there was a big outbreak, because suddenly there'll be millions of reviews of products on Amazon and Bath and Body Works with thumbs down, reading something like the cinnamon nutmeg candle doesn't smell like anything. Why is my pumpkin spice, my vanilla incense stick, basically it's so watered down. It's like there's barely anything there, right? I think it's broken, right? Well, it's because people have been destroying their bodies and their olfactory and gustatory senses. It's your sense of taste and smell. Increasing cases of long COVID related smell and taste impairment remain a major catalyst for sustained market demand. Chronic smell and flavor loss, anosmia, hyposmia, hypogeusia are increasingly recognized as significant health burdens. The surge in sensory impairment cases following the infections with increasing elderly populations and neurological disorders, is strengthening long-term demand for diagnostic and therapeutic solutions. It's also, you can sell you can sell people's solutions, treatments at privatized American hyper expensive. I like to call it universal death care, and universal wealth extraction scheme called American healthcare system. There's a huge amount of money to be made damaging people, and it's selling them the half or non-fixes to the destroyed systems. Huge amount of money. There are these like extreme cold, awaken your sleeping neurons. Are you having brain fog? Are you having neural weakening? Do you feel like you can't remember words? Are you giving a lecture in college and you simply the sentences are evading you? Like receding, like receding clouds or city lights in the distance of your mind. Right? Take this pill. Take this nootropic. Take this program where you induce hypothermia in your skull to increase, activate all of your neurons. Right? Those are expensive treatments that may or may not actually work. It's irrelevant to the capitalist class, to the corporations. Again, selfishly, toxically, individually seeking their profit. There's a huge amount of money to be made as everyone destroys and disables their brains, their gustatory, olfactory senses, their immune systems, their organs, every cell of their body, their blood, right? Huge amounts of money to be made. Killing people, sickening people, weakening people, destroying people. That's a really toxic individuality at the highest level. Plus the hive mind groupthink of everyone not wanting to address the problems that are caused that they are helping, right? The wealthiest amongst the society, these kind of omnicidal kakistocrats, right? The malicecrats, just government rule by destroying and harming everything, which includes AI, which destroys and harms everything as well. And so it's a toxic groupthink with a toxic individuality mixing together to create this noxious soup. And it's really unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. AI-driven olfactory test kits for remote diagnosis. Research collaborations between universities and pharmaceutical companies for developing regenerative smell therapies. Telehealth platforms integrating smell taste screening tools for long COVID management. So the sicker you get, the richer they get. Okay. I had another link here I wanted to throw out there. Where did I put that? The problem with masks if you are sick is that masks work to prevent illness if you use them daily and work to ensure the air is clean when you unmask. The other issue with masks when you're sick is that people can be contagious 2 or 3 days before they show symptoms. This is another just a little bit of information. I'm sure Holly, do you have any like threads that specifically talk about this? I was trying to find one of the threads. I made a bunch of them. We've made a bunch of them over time, but okay. I'm gonna not just look around at this moment. Let me know if you drop one in the chat. Okay. But long story short, if you don't know this, we've made several videos on this topic. There must be at least 20 or 50 hours. If you include Twitch, it's probably 100 hours of streaming and sharing information related to the problems of this ongoing pandemic. And it's really like it's across the board. So just in case you take away nothing else related to health, please look up. And there's other people that have put out better, more comprehensive information than us. We're just like trying to boost that signal. Okay, I'm gonna look at that one real fast. Okay, I'm gonna try to get this. Whoop. So I'm gonna move this over here so my face will disappear. Okay. Anyways, yeah. So I just want to make sure people get that, because again, it is holiday season. I mean, if you haven't done all the things that we're talking about, it doesn't mean like you're evil, and it's not necessarily, but it's not just about making people feel bad. Many people have done things, haven't done things, and it's just like, now is a good time to any time. Now is always whatever time it is, whatever you've done for the last 5 or 6 years. Now is a good time to not do that. It's just better to just, some people made not great choices for 4 years and then they changed, or some people got extremely ill and they got long COVID and then they were unable. The doctor said if you get one more cold, you're gonna basically die. If you get one more virus or some kind of infection, you're probably gonna get your life is gonna be so miserable you might wish you weren't around, or you could die. And there's always immunocompromised people everywhere. That's part of the reality too. And people who are disabled, immunocompromised, or chronically ill. Holly has a T-shirt, Invisible Illness Club. It doesn't always show, right? If somebody shows up and they have in a wheelchair and their hair is all gone, they're incredibly pale, you assume they're like a cancer patient undergoing chemotherapy, possibly they're at the end stages of their life, right? And so people will be like, they have to be masked, or you have to be masked, and people kind of accept that, right? It's weird, right? Like, if people are dying of the big C, if people are dying of cancer, people are like willing to consider mortality and death, right? And illnesses in that moment. Some people still are afraid of that too. Like, movies are made about this all the time, right? It's like all the Grammy Award winners, usually somebody's got cancer, or people that Grammy bait, Royal Tenenbaums, or somebody's pretending to have it. Because it makes for emotional, kind of tragic drama as people pass away. But it's like the same thing happens with COVID and with viruses. And with people who have things like chronic fatigue syndrome, or similar things are happening. People's lives are being destroyed. People are dying. People are slowly dying. But because people are not necessarily directly responsible for another's cancer, and I think it makes it feel safer. It feels safer for people to think about. Whereas people who aren't masking are directly responsible for other people's long COVID and other people's death and other people's 30 million people have died and counting, at least 30 million, and hundreds of millions or billions have been long-term disabled, including with chronic fatigue syndrome, which is worse in your life quality than getting cancer. And again, billions of people, most of the planet just don't want to think about that. They just don't want to think about that. And so that's part of the reason why they, attack. And that's why we have to do, there's a minority of the earth that's still trying to struggle against this toxic hive mind groupthink, right? Like I was talking about, the group anti-think and the lone maskers, the lone strugglers for the collective. I mean, paradoxically, have to suffer our own isolation more and more, right? Now, sometimes people are independently masking because maybe for personal reasons, which is in pluribus. Carol resists the hive mind as long as she thinks that maybe if she might personally suffer, like she wants to go back to the way it was so she can have her people, right, reading about her, reading her books and showering praise upon her, and her, getting the kind of social interaction that she wants. That's what she wants, right? Or she doesn't want to join the hive mind. So if it personally impacts her, she's been kind of like, I'm going to fight this, but she's saying it's for the good of humanity, saving the world. But it's really, in episode 7, it's revealed that it's kind of, no, it's not really that. Because then she's like, well, if I'm safe, because they tell her, we're not going to forcefully convert you unless you consent. Then she's like, well, I'm just going to live it up like Mr. Diabate. And there's another character, Menusos, in South America, in Paraguay, who takes and has taken absolutely nothing from the anti-thinking, from the toxic group, the hive mind, right? Despite them trying to constantly offer him water, offer him help with his car, offer him to transport him free, he's taking this incredibly treacherous, like life-threatening, painful, deadly trek across the Darien Gap to go from South America to North America, and to his own, on basically his own deathbed. He, at every turn, he says, "No, I'm not taking anything from you." So he has the resolve and the will and the actual commitment to sacrifice. He says, I am Manosos. I am not one of them. I want to save the world. Right? And he keeps repeating it like Inigo Montoya from Princess Bride. I'm Inigo Montoya. You kill my father, prepare to die. Right? I forget his last name. I am Manosos Manuel. I forget, what's his last name? Oh wait, spelling it wrong. What is he saying? I'm Manosos Oveda. That's what it is. I am Manosos Oveda. I'm not one of them. I wish to save the world. And he insists on that, right? So that's his lone struggle against basically everyone else on Earth, including Carol, has given up. And he's like literally the lone struggler, this guy. So we got a picture of yeah, he is the only person. He is crossing the Darien Gap. He is like, walking across the entire this jungle full of extremely dangerous, like almost like trees with 9-inch nails coming out of them that are covered in toxic, deadly bacteria. He's like catching fish in a stream. He doesn't take any food from them. He catches fish himself. He catches water. He harvests water from rain himself. Takes nothing. They offer him anything the whole time for weeks. He's just been refusing because he has a very important line in this where he says they're offering to transport him. They're offering him a better car. They're offering him a helicopter. It's just, Manuel, you're going to harm yourself. You're going to suffer. You're going to die. Please, you must accept our help. And he says, you cannot give me anything because all that you have is stolen. You do not belong here. Right? It's you can read that from a indigenous person, like a Native American speaking like Lamback, or from like the global South to the global North, right? You can't give me anything. I don't want what you have. Because you can't give me anything because everything you have is stolen. If I accept what you have, I'm simply being bought off by my own oppressor. That's another way to think about it. All the land that you claim you have is stolen. All the wealth that you have is stolen. All the labor value that you profit from is stolen. All of your cars, all of your everything is stolen. But obviously this is an alien species arriving on the Earth. Alien virus, certainly. It's not from the Earth. And he says, like, you are not from here. And he has a resolve to it's a metaphor for the lesson of Thomas Sankara. He who feeds you controls you. And if you want to become free, it will take sacrifice. Right? This is why the Sahel states in Africa, they're getting free. They don't accept food, aircraft, or vehicles, or anything. Burkina Faso doesn't accept anything from France, from the United States. They don't accept their loans. They don't want any of that. Also, China doesn't want America's AI chips. They insist, please take them. We can tell you. No, it's about sovereignty. It's about actual, speaking of independence, there's another kind of independence, a not toxic individual or independence, as opposed to the toxic independence of, I want my independence to, make as much money as I possibly can and spend my money buying government officials as a billionaire, right? But there's another not toxic, a valorous independence of I refuse to be oppressed as a member of the Native Hawaiian community, which I am, as a member of the Africans who have suffered 500 years of colonialism, slavery, and racism, right? We will not bow. We will not accept your help. All you have is stolen. All of the Eiffel Tower, all the French Paris is built with the stolen labor and the stolen gold and the stolen mines and the stolen resources from Africa. And that's why you're falling apart now. That's why the West is falling apart, because Africa and the global majority colonized world is getting free. And if they accept from colonizers the assistance, right, that's what they want. That's what neocolonialism is you accept the IMF help, you accept the NGO, you accept the Bill Gates nonprofit, and then they have the hooks in you. They puppetize, they corrupt and compromise your government, and so you have flag independence, but you're not free. You're still in a prison. You're still the prisoner. Like you're still Patrick McGowan inside of the village of the special agent retirement home. You think you're free, but you're not. You have a there's a fraudulent democracy in the Prisoner, the TV show. They have elections. They're like, this is all a farce. That's why this show got shut down, and he didn't really get they shut him down, and they have trying to stop. It's a cult following for the Prisoner, but I can see why they didn't want that show being seen by a lot of people. The U.S. and Britain and the West, the capitalists that control TV and Hollywood, they don't want anyone watching that show. There's a education system, but it's all rote education, and like AI is ironically like creating the read, memorize dates and names and regurgitate education system, and nobody asks why or what the implications, who wrote this history, right? That's a whole, and that like so the education itself is a control mechanism. Each episode, there's like 17 of them, is a critique of like the prison that you can live in, even inside of a so-called free country like U.S. or Britain. And so anyway, like that kind of defiance is also part of because Patrick McGowan is also Irish, which makes a difference. James Bond, Britain being a colonial power oppressing Ireland for centuries. And so like there is something important to like there's an important difference between a toxic negative going along with the flow, a community that is not allowing, a community that has a norm of prioritizing peace with injustice, right? Keeping the community together despite corruption and problems, injustice and immorality within, is a kind of toxic collectivity, right? It's a negative collectivity. And then you can also have collectives that are resisting, and that do root out internally individuals within that community, like individuals within the Native Hawaiian community or individuals within, Burkina Faso or African community, individuals within a South American indigenous community that root out their own toxic group, because there can be negative in any group. Just because you're African or indigenous, Central South American or Native Hawaiian or whatever group, that doesn't mean that you're perfect. People are still humans, so there's still going to be problems that have to be rooted out inside of those communities, right? And if they root those out, like for Burkina Faso, for example, like they banned homosexuality like a couple of years ago, despite the revolutionary anti-white supremacist, anti-colonial fight that they're in was and is legitimate and right. It's a defiance of an oppressor. It's Africa refusing to integrate. Right? It's the positive independence of a colonized people against their colonial oppressor, neocolonial U.S., French, European, Western, white oppressors. but in that they did something that's maybe, at that time it seemed right to certain people. Now they look back at it and they've said, oh, we made a mistake. The same happened in Cuba, by the way. Early on, the Cuban Revolution had some anti-gay actions that they took, and Castro later on wrote about how he regretted it, and they changed later, right? So if you have a collective struggle of one group against a larger, so a collective oppressed group struggle against a larger group. It's one kind of individual independence, right, and individuality. It's a collective wanting to separate from a larger oppressor collective, right? But then inside of that collective, you could also have problems and toxicity that have to be rooted out. If they're not rooted out, then even the resisting group, right, declaring its independence could also become, can fall down and become more and more corrupted. This is what happens to a lot of the Communist Party of Canada was one where there's all this sex abuse and just like neglect, and a lot of people that were just like, especially women and non guys, were just being harmed and being mistreated, and all kind of assaults were happening, and it was all being covered up by a group that was claiming to want to overthrow oppression. Right, so if you don't deal with that, then things will tend to either fall apart or you will join, right, or somehow become a complicit in or a compromised subgroup of the oppressor, right? Which is what the African Union is. That's what ECOWAS is. When Nigeria is it's the African, supposedly for the freedom and benefit of Africans, but they're actually blowing up their own Africans that are actually liberating themselves, right? That's what Nigeria, attacking with its air force. Benin trying to monitor and harm Burkina Faso and Niger and Mali, and those countries saying we're not going to allow you to do that. So that's an internal. So they're all oppressed African groups and people, but inside they have internal corruptions that have to be rooted out. Anyway, that's another. That's where it's like and even within the Native Hawaiian struggle, not every Hawaiian is necessarily on the same page with everything, and that there's all this internal. Like individuals within indigenous communities have to take our own individual stance. I mean, I'm not this Native Hawaiians who don't mask. This is one example, right? Or there's Native Hawaiians who, work for the U.S. military, and they say, "Yeah, I support Hawaii and the good of all Hawaiians, but America's not that bad." It's so like there's wrong think. There's internal problems inside of indigenous communities, and it takes again. So I feel like. This character is, I don't know if that's what all is being said with the character of Monosos in Pluribus. Like, there's definitely elements, because it's juxtaposed against Carol, who is like, she is taking like really fancy luxury cars. Like, there's like sports cars. She takes like this huge, what was it, a Rolls Royce? A really fancy car. She's driving it around. She's demanding the hive mind send her Gatorade. She demands ice cold Gatorade. When they drone her in, slightly not cold enough Gatorade, she says, "I want it ice cold next time. Do better." She's like ordering them around, eating luxury dinners, is driving all over the place, demanding things from them, golfing everywhere, and he is siphoning gas out of cars, with his mouth, like swallowing, and this disgusting, gasoline is not great to ingest or to get into your mouth. And he's putting money on every single car that he takes gas from, right? So he's paying every single, like, he doesn't want, even in this apocalypse, right? Which is basically what it is. He's just like, I am gonna pay for everything. I'm not gonna take or steal anything. Everything I do, I'm going to trade fairly for that. I'm not going to take anything from anyone, right? He has this like extreme sense of his extreme resolve and sense of his moral code. And I think there's something else behind that. I think it's probably like, it's not really explored at this moment, but if you're an indigenous, somebody resisting colonizers, they offer, I'm a Native Hawaiian, they offer me stuff all the time. They offer us all this stuff all the time. If you join the military, you can get X, Y, and Z. If you just stop with your Hawaiian independence, America will, just become an American. Just become an American. Just join the American imperialist hive mind, right? Just join capitalism. There's so much that you can get. We'll stop, you can get more jobs. Just be the token Hawaiian, and we'll you can be the Hawaiian in a high place. You can be like the Obama of Hawaii. There's Hawaiians that move up. Just be a Hawaiian and say that you just be a Hawaiian and get an anthropology degree, and just say that, be the Hawaiian that blesses the U.S. military project. Say, yes, Hawaiians accept this giant telescope. Hawaiians accept the new military base. Be the indigenous person that does the sensitivity reading. Be the indigenous consultant that gives the moral blessing to corporate projects. Yes, that Hawaiian character is okay in that big EA game, that big first-person shooter game. Yes, all those tattoos, those are fine. And we'll pay you so much money. We'll pay you so much money to sell your own culture out, to sell your own people out. And if you don't, look how hard it's going to be for you. Look how you're going to have to independently publish your own anti-colonial video games like Neofeud. You're going to struggle through you're going to struggle through the Darien gap of poverty as a brown indigenous person, resisting the grants, the university bribes, the Democratic Party bribes, the nonprofit bribes, the Hawaiian Office of Hawaiian Affairs. The indigenous, be the token indigenous person on this corporate panel. Be the speaker with Hillary Clinton in this indigenous workshop to make white people feel less guilty about their colonial crimes, right? All of those, that's all the bribes. I feel like that's what I read in when Manosa says, I don't want anything from you. I don't want any of your money. I know it could be easier for me. I don't want any of that because everything you have is stolen. Everything you have is stolen, colonizer. And that's something that's beyond. That's beyond the realm of Carol. That's not even in her purview. But it really shows the difference because she's just taking whatever they have to give, and he is doing everything that he can. Even while she was trying to fight, unravel the hive mind, she was still taking everything that she could get, including shopping in her Sprouts, having hundreds or thousands of people bring groceries into her grocery store. So she can conveniently grab it off the shelf, and while feeling like she's an independent person because she personally picks whether she wants, Heinz ketchup or Great Value ketchup, or organic ketchup, right? But it's not, So whereas he actually is trying to take absolutely nothing from them, and he refuses to take anything from them the whole entire time. So anyway, that's a little aside. That's a little bit aside, but that is like, so that's like that because they're talking about, lone strugglers, and that's what it is. It's not. You don't have to be a colonized person. You don't have to be, a BIPOC person, black, brown, indigenous person trying to actively resist these the racist and colonial systems to necessarily to be in a struggle. But that's a big, global wide example of that. Right. But it's also individual because individually, as right, you can choose as an indigenous person in America or in the global South, you can choose to cooperate with your oppressor and there's a better deal for you and join that group and that thing. You can stay resilient and you will suffer for it, but it will be morally the right thing to do. And in the long run, that's better for all of the planet, right? The end of the capitalist system is fundamentally intertwined with imperialism, which is based upon anti-indigeneity, anti-blackness, anti-brownness, etc. And so, even for the whole planet, right? All anti-imperial, anti-colonizer, anti-colonial struggles are for the good of all of humanity. It's for the good of all species of life on Earth. It's for the good of all of the environment. Right, which is that those systems of oppression are what is also causing climate change, destroying ecology. So it really is. It's not even just for your own group. It's the struggle of indigenous people of Paraguay, the struggle of the Quechua or Guarani in Bolivia, the struggle of the Boricuas, the struggle of Palestinians, the struggle of the people of Burkina Faso. It's not even just for them, right? It's for the whole planet to have an alternate system in the world other than the current this global toxic imperial neoliberal order. So in that sense, it is but each individual within that, no matter where you are, also has to make their own individual choice of which whether they're going to go with the toxic group anti-think or they're going to go with the collective struggle. So anyways, but back to the pandemic. Actually, hold on one second. Is the internet out, or am I imagining things? Okay, maybe is your internet on? Oh, okay. It must just be my laptop internet appears to have died. Okay. Anyway, so I should probably wrap this up soon. So that is where all of those the colonial struggles, the pandemic, virus related struggles do overlap, right? And they are it's not so simple as like being individualistic or being collectivistic. It's not really about that. It's like there's times where in collective societies, including indigenous societies, people need to individually give their input. And I think I talked about that a lot in a previous YouTube video. Right? Like I used the example of Ahupua'a system. The Ahupua'a system wouldn't have existed if people like weren't able to express this is a better way to do this, and other people weren't able to hear it. They wouldn't have developed, right? And or the Tahitian medicine of the third gender Mahu who came over to teach about this major breakthroughs in medicine. If there wasn't ability for people to, right, for individuals within the indigenous culture to bring forward their better ideas, right? The what is it called? The healing stones. In the story of the Kapai Mahu, that's what it is. Yeah, the Kapai Mahu healing stones, or healer stones. You can watch about that in this video by Kumuhina. It's an example of these are several individuals that they happen to also be indigenous, queer, native people of the Pacific from the neighboring, not neighboring, but the other island in the Pacific, thousands of miles away, Tahiti. They sailed up and they brought new ways of treating illnesses, whether it was coughs. Some of them were like potentially virus. Ironically, there are new ways of treating viruses, right? And because the culture of indigenous Pacific Islanders like myself, right, was accepting of people's individual input and not like rigidly set in, I don't know, bloodletting or the humors, right? Which they're actually like very old ideas that were set in stone and they just didn't move because there was a calcified, not allowing the positive individual inputs to that system in Europe and in the Western world, right? And that's why like they say only until the mid 20th century, or up until the mid 20th century, most of Western medicine was iatrogenic, meaning it killed more patients than they saved. And a lot of that was because of the lack of actually individual input in a actually rational empirical way, being allowed to alter the collective ideas, right? So Kapai Mahu is where new ideas were introduced and then they were adapted, right? And it was shown how they worked, and people accepted this new knowledge because this new medical knowledge was shown empirically, right, that it was caused people to be in better health, right? When in the 1800s, Hawaiians had universal vaccination. We had the world's first universal healthcare system as well. I'll be coming back to that. Let me jump into that since we're talking about health and we're talking about toxic individuality, positive versus toxic individuality, and positive versus negative collectivity. Another example of that is in the 1800s. like there was the collective universal health insurance, not universal health insurance, universal healthcare that we Native Hawaiians had in the 1800s. Where when diseases like smallpox were weaponized by colonizers to eliminate Native Americans, they tried this on us Native Hawaiians, but we used contact tracing, lockdowns, and vaccines, and universal healthcare, which we invented to prevent biological warfare from wiping out our people. These diseases. This is another reason why we take these disease in general, extremely seriously, because these are always have been weapons against Native Americans. For example, 70% of Native populations were decimated in the 1600s. In Massachusetts, they lost 90%. And the Pilgrims, who weaponized smallpox, they weaponized these viruses, and they described the wonderful preparation of the Lord Jesus Christ by His providence for His people's abode in the Western world. And so so we have to learn that these were real problems, and used testing and tracing to figure out who exactly. This is one example where in Hawaii's Story by Hawaii's Queen, Liliuokalani, because we used new ideas like vaccines, like contact testing and tracing, right, that people had brought to, because Hawaii didn't have that before, and then they learned new ideas, right? Individuals brought those forward, and they said, let's these ideas seem to work. Let's test them out. They tested them out. They worked, and so they were implemented, right? So a hive mind that says, oh well, this is what we always have done. Everyone's not masking, so I'm not going to mask, right? Because trust me, bro, right? Because everyone's doing it. We've always done that. We're going to keep doing that, right? That's a toxic group thing, as opposed to, here's a new thing. It's called masking. It's called contact tracing. And then people saying, okay, let's see if that works, right? Just like the kapai mahu. If you're new, right? This was like 500, many centuries ago, way before contact, right? Over 500 years ago. If your new treatment works, let's test it. If it works, then we will adopt it. If it doesn't work, then like rational, scientific, but also but it's for the benefit of the collective. We will hear your individual idea and then incorporate. So it's a positive individuality and a positive collectivity, right? Which is integrating new individuals' ideas, which, sometimes are individual or a subgroup of the collective, coming up with a new idea, and then using that in order to benefit the collective, right? Which is how civilizations that are successful and have happier, positive, and stronger people and more united people tend to have those characteristics, right? And the world's first universal healthcare system was. The thing is, the world's first universal healthcare system, right, which is a system, right? The United States capitalists will frequently say things like, or promote this idea that, and Western capitalists will say, government, universal healthcare is communism, it's socialism, it's destructive because there's these wait times, it's inefficient, just like Ayn Rand told us. Communism never works, collectivism never works. We need the profit motive to make medicine better, right? That's the kind of narrative that they kind of try to construct in the disinformation of the Western world and distributed by the CIA, etc. The world's first universal healthcare. The irony is, the world's first universal healthcare system was led by Emma Kalani Kamaka Amano Kaleleo Nalani Na'Aruk, who believed that access to healthcare was not a privilege but a national security concern and a right. So she's actually an individual brown woman. Because there's disagreement. There are other people that said, "Oh, I don't think we really need that. Why do we need free healthcare? Like we're fine as it is. We can have for-profit healthcare, right?" And she actually went on foot. She actually, a vote in the Hawaiian government in the 1800s was turned down because we actually had the highest literacy rate in the world. We also had the world's first hydro-powered, socialized, not-for-profit electricity system. We had the world's first the capital was electrified before the U.S. Capitol. So Hawaii was a very advanced country because of positive individualism and positive collectivism, right? And some people disagree with her, right? That's another way you can see that we weren't a hive mind. Some people said we don't need that. We don't need to worry about that. Let's focus on something else. Let's focus on dealing with, diplomacy between Britain and France or something. And she said, no, we need to have healthcare be a national a privilege. And it's also for our own security, but it's also what's right. We need to do this. We need free, accessible, high quality healthcare. She went on foot, house to house, when the vote failed in the Congress, to raise money. She raised like tens of thousands of dollars, going from house to house, like walking miles and miles and miles, and then brought that and then used that money to help start this the Queen's Medical Center, and also there's also a nursing school for girls. That the idea of nursing as a profession is actually related to Frankenstein, and what was happening in that. It was like the idea of that era, the idea of nursing as a profession, as opposed to kind of like a denigrated, like one step above a dolly mop or a prostitute in that time, not very important, was just the idea that women could work in healthcare seriously was just being considered in her time, in the 1800s. And so she, as an independent woman, like went and said, I'm going to go and raise money for this, raise money for it, got it started, and it was extremely successful. It's possible that she prevented Hawaii's complete and total collapse. Because without the universal healthcare system, which did the testing and tracing, which treated people who were Native Hawaiians who were dying from smallpox, brought in on purpose by colonizers, which we discovered Western colonizers were bringing it in because they wanted to wipe us out, basically. And they were lying about who was bringing it in and where and when, because it would benefit them to destroy, obviously, like they had done to Native Americans. And so so it's actually universal healthcare, and that those new practices under the universal healthcare, testing and tracing, right? Which is hard to do if you don't have universal healthcare. If you have for-profit healthcare, how come America couldn't determine really quickly and efficiently, like China, for example, who and what areas had high COVID rates, right? Because there was the privatized healthcare system meant people didn't want to go to a clinic or hospital for almost anything because of how much it cost. So if you wanted people to be mass testing to be able to be really able to clamp down on outbreaks, the privatized healthcare system of the United States, right, and an insufficient healthcare system, among other things, prohibited even the means to control pandemics, and it still does. It still does. So you see it's actually the positive and when it showed that that your system seems to be working very well, then the other Hawaiians didn't say, well, I want to be right. Right now, there is always disagreements. People don't like to have their ideas shot down, but like there was an acceptance that because, right, the positive collectivity, which is we want what's best for the Lahui, the nation, the people, all the people, not just individual minority of the richest people, that's the capitalist Western system, or just white people, that's the racist system, or just, first world countries, the European and US, that's the colonial system. We want what's best for all people. So what we're going to do is, even though I'm wrong, we're going to accept your idea, because me being right, my toxic individual need to be right, or my plan to be the one that happens, or my need to make money is not as important as everyone being healthy. You know what I mean? So the individual, the toxic individuality is people like coming forward with these ideas and like disagreeing with the mainstream current groupthink. The current collective thinks we don't need universal healthcare. So the positive individuality is I'm gonna research and I individually figure out there's a new system that we could implement that I think it will work. And the positive collectivity is, well, we don't all agree with that, but empirically, rationally, it seems to work. And because we prioritize the collective good over individual prestige, profit, power, and selfishness, we're going to implement that. Do you see? So it's actually so there's not to have a successful society, civilization, group, nation, etc. Right? It requires both individuality and also collectivity, but like in the appropriate ways, not like everyone just being an individual, like as the West would like to, especially the United States. But this goes back to the Greeks, the Europeans in general. Like this idea of like we all have to be selfish individuals. I mean, in Europe it was aristocrats individually vying for maximum title, power, and privilege too, despite the harm it was doing to their countries. I mean, wars between Protestants and Catholics killed needlessly millions of people. Suffering was immense. But that was for the individualistic pursuit of the nobility and aristocrats, and people trying to climb the ladder by marrying into it or doing whatever they could to escalate their self up that ladder. In Rome was the same thing. It was basically America, right? Which is people coming in and then killing and lying, cheating, stealing, trying to ascend the heights to the top of the Roman oligarchy, right? And you could if you fought hard and you fought for their empire, you did genocide, you killed and plundered North Africa or West Asia or wherever they were. You could make some amount of wealth, and you could maybe become someday a aristocrat. You could become a landowner. You could ascend the ranks. That's actually what Denzel Washington's character does in Gladiator 2, right? So that's a selfish individualism. Yes, there's a Roman collective, right? The Legion, which is a toxic collective that collectively is doing mass injustices, mass killing, mass plundering, mass enslavement. And then there's a toxic individualism, which is the individuals like Denzel Washington's climbing Macbeth, like a power-seeking former warrior, former colonized, right? Like in Riddick, we all began as something else. Well, he began as a African slave and then ascended the ranks, right, to become somebody who is launching armies into his own continent to kill his own people for his own personal privilege and profit. So there's a toxic individualism and a toxic collectivity that go hand in hand. And it's not really a thing about which, collective versus individual, collective versus individualistic societies, any kind of like general sense, I would say. But like, it's just like the ways in which they are and the life ways, the culture and the values which persist in those cultures, on individual levels, on collective levels, and that which is that, and to the extent which those are like in the real world allowed to play out, that's what determines the character of those societies in a dialectical way. It's not, no society is perfect, but like they have more or less successes of those various traits. You could almost make a 4-quadrant diagram of that, right? Toxic positivity, toxic collectivity, positive collectivity, toxic individuality, positive individuality, right? And various U.S. is basically maximum toxic individuality, maximum toxic collectivity. Everyone wants to individually have the same suburban house and fight for the death cult of the U.S. empire. It's destroying the world. 800 military bases in almost every country on Earth. Single biggest carbon polluter on the planet. Destroyer of all attempts to build sovereignty, liberation of any kind, and the global capitalist system. Right. So there's a toxic collectivity. We're all going to come together to be stormtroopers. Right. And individually, I'm personally going to be the richest one. Right, so that's actually right. So that's actually, it's not really about It's not really about real individuality. Right, like yes, there are individual struggles in the West, in the U.S. Right, and amongst those systems, right. But the struggles under the pro-U.S. The people in the U.S. are struggling against it, but like within the confines of the pro-U.S. crowd, it's about individual struggle for my own personal, right, toxic, like it's a Carol struggle, it's a Karen struggle, right? I'm gonna be the richest Karen with the most, right, career and the most money. I'm gonna have all the expensive restaurant dinners for me personally, right? And yeah, it's a struggle to lie, cheat, steal, kill your way to the top of that, I guess, but it's not one that benefits, right? Like, Wall Street traders struggle against each other to make the most money, right? Sundar Pichai and a new CEO struggle, right? Sundar Pichai and Elon Musk struggle. Who's going to get more money? Who's going to get what contract, I guess, to make more billions in these huge AI companies? But it's not a struggle that benefits anyone. And it's not a struggle for the collective good. No matter what, Google says don't be evil, and Elon Musk can say he's saving human civilization, right? But it's not they're struggling over who will make the most money, ultimately destroying the world and creating more groupthink, causing brain destroying AI You want more on the AI psychosis? We talked specifically about AI in the PS AI psychosis stream about several weeks ago. So there's a kind of sorry, I'm trying to get a bunch of these videos out because this is kind of like a big end of the year holiday season public service announcement informational stream to a large extent. So I'm trying to get a bunch of these on screen, even though my computer is really slowing down. But yeah, so we did one on psychosis or AI psychosis and zombification, cyber opium, class war, viral mass consciousness destruction, and future control schemes. That was more focusing on the AI topic. And so in AI itself, right, is about producing a toxic collective. It's not really a collective, but it's collectively grouping all of human knowledge into one thin, slightly thin olive oil, tasteless, odorless, soulless substance, right? It's an AI generated spicy autocomplete, stochastic parroting, right? It's just human language pattern mimicry or human created art pattern mimicry, which is what AI art generators and AI movie generators and AI generators are doing in that respect, right? And that's its own kind of toxic collectivity, right? In a sense that it is about removing all individuality, the positive individuality from people's creation. So like they would like to take Neofeud and turn it into part of the problem with Neofeud is like a poison pill for all of these systems because it really is all over the place, and it ultimately the art style itself is not really conducive to. It really differs depending on from scene to scene. So it's not really anything you can. I would think that AI would have a really hard time dealing with that, right? It's kind of the good thing about having a collage, very surreal and very weird art style, which I do have. Is that it's almost I am the number 6 in the Patrick McGowan's prisoner sense of video games, perhaps. No, I will not be indexed. I will not be briefed and debriefed. I will not have Neofeud eaten by stochastic parrot, world destroying torment nexus, broken software called OpenAI or Sora or Sonu or any of your AI art generators, because, well, if you try, you're going to break your own system. And also you're going to incorporate, you will incorporate anti-capitalist and anti-imperialist messaging into all of your system too, if you try. So that's that. I don't want any of my stuff to be scraped. Stop using no credit erasing software that they call AI and Gen AI. Let's get rid of all that crap. So anyways. Okay, between vaccine restrictions, back to the health. Between vaccine restrictions, mask bans, the rest of Medicaid and measles surge, there's never been a more important time to protect your health. Respirators and how to choose. In case you don't, I would recommend just check out some of these articles. But a lot of this is stuff that people around here probably already know. But in case you don't, they've assigned an identity to people who mask. They see them as liberal, woke, quote unquote sheep. They think we're weak and frail. It's interesting, right? Because it's like the majority of people don't mask. So aren't the sheeple those who are not masking? Which is what governments and corporations want you to do, like we already pointed out, right? It's to the benefit that people don't mask because they can make more money. You become more disabled and you become more unconscious and you become less able to resist them, right? It's actually it's in the interest of the rich, and corporations and the oligarchy and the ruling class that you keep not masking, keep getting sick. Keep using AI and keep getting sick. That's actually the sheeple stance. But people are calling have been calling those who are masking the sheep. It's weird, right? They believe they belong to them and not a collective us. Maskers are none of those things. They're simply people who understand the science. They're trying to do whatever they can to safeguard the health of those around them. In the you do you era of viruses gone wild. If you think back to before COVID, seeing people wearing a mask was not a cause for outrage. It wasn't as common back then as it is now, but I would see folks masking in public transit, in airports, and in healthcare settings. Heck, I masked in hospitals during cold and flu season. The worst I ever got was a funny look. Someone might move further away from me in a waiting room because they assumed I had something they could catch. There was no anger. There was no vitriol. It was a non-event. Then COVID hit, and we were told we need to mask up to stop transmission. Respirators were saved for healthcare workers. People were encouraged to wear cloth or surgical masks. The idea behind this was simple: save as many lives as possible by ensuring control. If every person masked, then those who are infectious will be less likely to spread the virus to others because something is covering their nose and mouth. Will a cloth mask stop you from getting COVID if you're face-to-face with unmasked people? Probably not. That's when you need to up your mask game and wear N95 or better. But if every single person has their nose and mouth covered properly, even cloth masks can drastically reduce the transmission. It turns out there were a lot of people there who didn't like being told what to do. People felt they were being forced to wear a mask to participate in society, and that was too high a price to pay to protect their fellow human beings. So this is the thing. I mean, I'm not going to read the whole article, right? But again, right, that's the toxic, quote unquote, freedom, the toxic individuality. I would like, because I just personally want to, right? Because I just don't like, because it's a little uncomfortable. Like, I personally want to, in the same way, like, people personally want to have a sports car, right? And so you can steal billions of dollars from other people by being a capitalist and then get sports cars. That's what a CEO does. Steal labor value from his workers and buy sports cars. People personally might want to drive 90 miles per hour in the 25 mile per hour zone, right? And want to do that kills children crossing the street. Right, you drive over a pregnant woman pushing a stroller. So, the individual, need, but they're not quite at the scale of somebody going 90 miles per hour, but not arguably worse in the long term. But everybody individually wanting to not mask because of their needs to, or their personal individual desire and their quote unquote freedoms, is obviously what has been driving the collective cost to the roof. I mean, the perfect example is if 80%, if 4 out of 5 people masked, most illnesses could be eliminated. It's been estimated in a matter of like a month to 2 months, or maybe weeks, because the rate of spread would drop so low. The R would be reduced to, like, not zero, but so low. The rate of replication of COVID-19 and other viruses would be reduced so low that the viruses would not be able to successfully replicate enough to remain in the society. And within a very short period of time, they could be eliminated. But you see, it would take such level of collective struggle of individuals, for whatever reason, people coming together at a huge scale to do such an action. It took a monumental. It's actually not that monumental. People just have to be slightly inconvenienced. People have to be slightly inconvenienced for a month, and we could eliminate COVID. You could eliminate flu. You could eliminate RSV. You could eliminate, not necessarily pneumonia, but you could eliminate a lot of viruses. And definitely COVID. Millions of people would not be dead. Billions of people would not be disabled. If just 4 out of 5 people, right? That's 6.5 billion people wore a mask for a month. Like, we've been wearing masks for 6 years. And it's not that bad. This is why it's so, it's like, literally, the world could have been saved by most people being slightly inconvenienced, but people are not able to do that, it seems like. People are not able to look at basic science, the so-called rational world, some of the worst perpetrators, the richest most highly educated country in the U.S., European countries, Canada. These are some of the worst rates of masking. The worst they're selfish, individualistic, and they're anti-scientific. They're anti-rational. They're anti-empirical. And obviously, that's why people like myself are so mad all the time. Okay. Anyways, that's that. So, okay. So let's wrap this up. So, one more thing I want to bring up about the pluribus is that the most recent episode that relates to this. In the most recent episode, in the last couple of episodes, like being an individual and being really sticking to it can really cause a lot of negative impacts to you. You can feel very sad. It cause real sadness. You lose your social connections. That it's really considered a human rights violation. It's considered a war crime to intentionally inflict that upon a prisoner, even a murderer. Right? It's against international law. It's a war crime. I mean, it's not enforced in the U.S., but it is. But in trying to struggle to do what we, as COVID conscious people know is right, we put ourselves into. That's why I say, those who have the resolve to sacrifice for the good of all. We sacrifice our own social connections. Like I can say for my friends, family, and a lot of networking, we sacrifice economically, because we can't get certain types of jobs. We sacrifice friends networks. We're not at family get-togethers for these reasons. We have to individually we have to be individuals bringing this information to our friends, family, work group, colleagues, people in our. It's the worst when you have some kind of progressive leftist, anti-colonial. It could be indigenous organizations, could be could be union, socialist, communist, or some kind of left anarchist organization, and people are not, wanting to listen to. This has been historically one of the things. Like, this has caused me a great amounts of negative, doomering feelings, because I see people in these left organizations that the vast majority, 95% of them, don't even want to hear basic science about masking, take disabled, immunocompromised people's needs into account, or just stop this mass disabling virus. And it's breaking me, and so that's a lone struggle. That the masking, the positive individuality of the COVID conscious community has had to go through for 6 years. It's not just for us, it's for everybody. It's not just for us, it's for the whole planet. Like I said, everyone, if eventually people adopt this. Now, in some instances, like I said, the UK has, again, mask laws. I saw there was a good number of people that were masking at the mall when we went to shop, right? So there's more people that are starting to accept, holy crap, my masking friends, they said they haven't been sick for 6 years. I'm tired of being sick every single week. So I'm done going with the group hive mind stupidity. I'm done with this toxic, just let it rip nonsense. This group anti-think of unmasking. I want to survive, I don't want to be sick anymore, and it's not the best reason to do it, but more people are realizing, oh my God, I'm going to be sick forever till I die. One of these infections, every time you get reinfected, you have a 10 to 15% approximate long COVID increase. Long COVID includes, omletification of your neurons, massive brain damage, minor or massive brain damage, inability to smell, to taste, erectile dysfunction, destruction of your kidney, 100+ % increases of risk to your colon cancer, other intestinal cancers, and just cancer in general, hair loss, tooth loss, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, also known as AIDS, right? Destroys your immune system. That's one of the recent studies. I mean, now it's time for the real talk, okay? Just in case you don't know this. One of the recent studies that I was just reading was that COVID is now being acknowledged unanimously in the scientific community. It should have always been, but now it's being unanimously acknowledged as a long-term immune system immune system damaging virus. Where was that one? I just bookmarked that. Oh, I think I reposted it. Here. Our findings redefine SARS-2 as a long-lasting immune compromise. Okay, so this is part of what's coming out, and people are going, "Oh my gosh, I am just going to keep getting sick. I'm just going to keep getting sick. I'm going to be just permanently sick." Like I said, we haven't been sick for 6 years. We haven't had one virus, cold, flu, stomach bug. We have allergies. When the wind blows, if there's dust in the air, if there's like somebody's cutting grass, all that gets, grass allergies. If there's fog from the volcano, you have like scratchy eyes and throat. But like we haven't had a contagious illness for 6 years, despite being in many crowded areas. We were just in a mall. We've been in mall. We went Christmas shopping in crowded malls, and we've been in crowded stores, crowded grocery stores, laundromats. We've been on buses, planes for 6 years now. It's almost 6 years. We haven't caught all four of us, a single virus that we know about. If you want to not keep getting sick, this is how to do it. No more. Hopefully, what happens is more people start to accept that reality and then start to adopt this, which it seems like it kind of seems like that's happening slowly. There's still, right, wealthy special interests, right? The capitalist class, the ruling class, the billionaire class don't want you to do that because they can make more money getting you sick. They reduce the risk of revolution and global systems change. The more damaged you get, the weaker you get, the more institutionalized you get, right? AI is they want it to replace as many workers as possible. If every person is so reduced because their mind is so damaged, or most people their brains are so reduced, children using AI, not fully developing their brains, and people using AI, which degenerates their brains, like in our AI psychosis video, and they also get COVID, damaging their brains further. If people can be reduced to kind of 50% or 20%, or just a addled, disrupted, semi-conscious, kind of a husk of people, right? Then the billionaire class can control the world. They could control the world if people, like, if AI is soulless and humans really appreciating human soul in the work, right? In art, in games, in movies, in your content, in the world, right? If that requires you being a full conscious person, well, then some of the oligarch class is like, if we reduce the human soul by reducing the human mind, which is where your thoughts and your feelings and your psyche and your personality resides. If you can reduce the human soul into a kind of AI and COVID damaged husk, right? With everyone outsourcing their brain to ChatGPT, outsourcing their heart to AI art generators, outsourcing, right? The children growing up just watching AI generated ripoff slop based upon all of Disney's consumed content, right? Then maybe we can turn people into these we can reduce human existence into this kind of like human shaped slug, or like a human shaped like a Morlock. We can reduce humans into a kind of a walking undead zombie that just like watches and hits like a prisoner that's lost his mind, just like whacking a keyboard called prompt, like an auto keyboard. You don't even have to make up the prompt. You just push a button and it prompts a new image and it throws at you, and then you laugh at it. You prompt a new image and it throws at you. If all of humanity can be reduced into this, just these shadows of their former selves, that is a world that maybe they can rule over, right? So every time you don't get COVID, every time you don't use AI, every time you resist, it's part of a collective, positive individual and positive collective struggle against a toxic individual, selfish pursuit of personal individual wealth, as Ayn Rand said, and a toxic collective pursuit, which is a global collective imperial system, imperial capitalist system, right? That everyone collectively can participate or not participate in various ways. So, anyways, so that's where so that's where it's a thing where it's like, I relate to the Monoso's character in that sense, because it is a suffering. Like, he gets stabbed with needles, he's thirsty, he starves for a while, he's walking for miles and hundreds of miles, thousands of miles. He's walking and he's driving, or he's walking probably hundreds of miles worth of. He has to stop his car, get out, find a car, siphon the gas out, put it in his car, fix his car when it breaks. It's a struggle. It's a struggle. He's like risking his life. He's out in the middle of this extremely dangerous, super hot, sweltering Darien Gap. There's animals that can kill him. There's plants that will kill him. He almost dies from the plants. And it's a lone struggle to save the world. It's a lone, like Lone Massacre is a video we made about the lone struggle. One person masking in your office while everyone's saying, why don't you take that thing off? You know that those masks don't work. It's just a little cold. Oh, everyone has RSV and pneumonia that's just normal. Everything's just normal. Just cough with us. Get sick with us. We're all sick. It's just normal. It's just normal. Well, come to the Thanksgiving and just be sick with us and just be normal. I'm like, no, I don't want to get sick and spread this and die. Well, just why are you being so rebellious for no reason? What are you trying to be? Stop being a sheeple. Stop being a liberal. Stop being a whatever, right? And so that's a struggle, because it's not as bad necessarily as falling on a toxic 9-inch nail bacteria spike plant like Monosos in pluribus, but it hurts because we don't get to see our family. We don't get the human reward. Carol is alone and she's breaking down and crying, writing in giant 50-foot tall capital white letters with a giant industrial paint roller for roofs, and she's painting come back because she's so depressed, she's so sad, she's so alone, she hurts. The isolation hurts. She's losing her mind. And I relate to that too. Because I haven't seen my family, a lot of my family and friends, and a lot of people I'm out of community with, and I'm more isolated. And that, I used to have Holly, we have the kids, but there's a lot of people I would like to talk to and see. But these people, right? I'm isolated from all these people that I used to talk to on a more regular basis, including my own dad. And so it does hurt. It does suck. It has a cost. It is a sacrifice. But it's not individualism for a toxic. I'm not being individual because I want to make a ton of money. I'm gonna just stay up all night, trading stocks so I can make tons of money. We're doing this so that to literally help save the world and all the humans in it that are being sickened and dying. If capitalists win and everyone gets COVID 600 times, if children grow up getting dementia by the time they turn 14 and being so brain addled, they can't even resist AI because all children have multiple forms of long COVID, and they have a long form chronic fatigue syndrome, encephalitis of all kinds. So they're not even learning. Kids they learn something, math in 4th grade, that they lose in 5th grade because they get another COVID infection, which is part of what's happening. The risk of long COVID has not gone down. There's another study that just came out. The risk of long COVID remains high. People are still getting it. The COVID conscious community is now just saying, so many of us have died. I've watched so many of our people, our community is shrinking, or there's a lot less of us. People I've known for a while, they are just dying because nobody around them is listening to them. Their family members are going unmasked around them. They're lying about when they're getting sick, when they're testing, and they're killing their own COVID conscious family members. And we're watching them die. there are like Manosa's like dying trying to save the world. There are lone maskers. There are COVID conscious people that have already died. There's probably millions of them that have already died. There's many that we can name. Alice is a well-known one that wrote in the New York. I forget what she was in a bunch of big publications, but there's a whole bunch of millions of Manosos, COVID conscious Manosos have already died. Being stabbed in the back, not by a Darien Gap poisonous plant. They've been stabbed in the back by their own family, their friends, their colleagues, their leftist organizers, their communist party organizers that they claim to be in community with each other. And they were stabbed in the back and they're dead. Having struggled to prevent capitalism and imperialism from winning, which is what will happen if everyone continues to get sick. And it's not it's also about the human spirit. Like, will people sacrifice for each other? Or is humanity more like Carol, who will sacrifice a little bit for their own personal interests, and when they find out they're okay, they're like, fuck the world? Or is humanity more like Manosa's, like, will they sacrifice a lot for everyone? Or will most of humanity, live their personal selfish life and watch it all go down the toilet? And let Bill Gates and let Elon Musk, let Larry Ellison and let Netanyahu and let billionaires, right, and the rich and the capitalist imperial system, will they let it win and just let everyone's brain rot with 25 rounds, 60 rounds of COVID? I mean, that's where it's at. It's a global struggle right now. I mean, and somebody said recently, what was that post? It was like, if I feel like as a COVID, somebody that's anti-AI, I feel like I'm the only person without a zombie bite in a zombie apocalypse. And somebody pointed out, like, yeah, that's a lot like being a COVID conscious person. I mean, yeah, that's exactly what it is. The zombie apocalypse, I made videos about this. The zombie apocalypse is happening. And it's just slow motion, silent, in the way that it is always going to happen. Something that silently infects, disables, and kills over time, so that people can't. You can virally boil the frog, the collective human frog in the pot. The elite can cook humanity slowly, so that they don't jump out. A rapidly acting T virus that kills everyone is not efficient to infect the entire planet and destroy and disable them. Because if a virus that causes actual zombies or Ebola, like, kills you in 3 days, well, people will react to more intensely, and there's more collective action. Those viruses do exist. They're highly contagious, and they kill you quickly. They don't spread. COVID is the perfect virus to kill everyone, and to not just kill everyone, to disable and to make everyone controllable and malleable and so weak and unconscious that they cannot resist. Right? Which is, maybe that's ideal. Maybe a matrix pod people hive mind of AI slop consuming, willfully or unconsciously or willfully ignorant, long COVID brain damaged population. Maybe that's the ideal outcome. It's kind of like Carol, right? Carol wants the humans back so that she can have millions of people reading her books and showering her with praise. Right? Maybe the elite want millions of people that will shower them with praise. And so COVID and AI brain damaged people is the ideal situation, because conscious people will tend towards not praising them, right? Elon Musk doesn't get praise from intelligent people, right? They laugh at him because he's a fool, right? The billionaires are not praised by intelligent people who understand the truth about what capitalism and these systems are. So if they can make everyone into fools and COVID/AI zombies, zombie praise is better than no praise. Just like Carol. Oh, these bunch of fools that I write for, but I love all their praise, right? So a planet full of brain dead, COVID and AI damaged zombies clapping for Larry Ellison and Alex Karp, right? And Elon Musk, as they stay in their little bubbles. That's the optimum situation. And then they don't have to change. And of course the environment loses, all species will be destroyed as capitalism will continue. They'll wreck more of the planet. They'll fly to another planet and wreck that one. And all, and that will be, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm saying, like, if we don't collectively pick up the struggle, and don't just leave it to the handful of family members or friends or colleagues that's masking. If we don't, then that's what's going to happen. I mean, that's just, empirically over time, if it continues its current trajectory, that's what's going to happen. That's what is happening. So, it's, and I'm not saying anyone is, obviously this is something, because we have to go through this. We're all going to have to go through this. We have to go through, every time we see get-togethers, every time we see gatherings, part of us is like, I'm so happy that you guys are having a great time. Another part of us is, I'm so mad you guys are all having a great time. We're sacrificing. You're getting sick. This is even in the indigenous community, like I said. You are getting sick. It's hurting everyone. We're suffering social isolation for you. For you. And for everyone. And you know what I'm saying? So so I really get that. That's one thing I like about pluralists, And it really sucks. That's all I have to say about that, right? It's like, I really want to be a part of your gathering. I'm glad that you're having those gatherings. I'm also like, I wish that you would just live in the reality that we are in and mask up and do what is actually right, scientific, empirically the correct thing to do, so that we could have our social needs met too by being part of your group and part of your family get together, part of your Christmas party, part of your indigenous gathering, part of your whatever, your communist, your leftist gathering, part of your workspace, part of your play space, or whatever that is. Like I wish that was the case. That's not the case. So now we're gonna choose to do the difficult but positive individual thing to do, which is to withdraw from that gathering. It's gonna hurt us. Hopefully you change your mind over the longer term. But anyways, I know this is, so that's something that that's something that that's not what is being said in pluribus, but that's something that there's times where it's there's emotions of being pushed out of the group and being mad at them. Like Carol, as I said, has very negative traits. Not at this point, for sure. Her character is much more less valorous, less good after 7. But it's the part where she's isolated and I'm mad at those people because they've been having parties without me. But also I don't want to be. They're doing things that are not right. That at least I based upon what I know, these are not right, and I'm not gonna go along with what they want just because. Then I get to be part of the group. So I get that one. But no, Manosa's even more. I'm not gonna go along with this group, no matter what. Right? No matter what, I'm not gonna. Somebody that guy's kind of weird. He's just an odd, but it's as time goes on, it's he's not just a weird guy that's just a super ultra recluse. He doesn't want to see and be around anyone. There's actual moral and possibly even colonial political reasons why he doesn't do the things that he does too. Possibly it's just something but the way he talks, right? There's he really is trying to do something that he believes is the right thing for the world, for all people, no matter how much it hurts him, And so that's another, but that's that feeling of you are all going along with this thing and I'm not. It's gonna hurt me. It hurts a lot. But I'm going to keep doing that because I know that's the right thing to do, is the positive individuality that, it sucks that people have to suffer that, So this is partially for the people that are still masking, people that are still taking this thing seriously, people that are, right, and also on AI too, but particularly today for the masking because it's everyone is going to be getting sick and spreading multiple RSV, pandemic, super pneumonia, hyperpneumonia, and all kind of other terrible illnesses, risking their brains, their organs, and their immune system yet again in this mass infection frenzy that is going to be Christmas break, winter break, Thanksgiving, when people are gathering indoors, viruses last longer, like COVID, in air, and in general during these colder temperature times, and everyone's gonna be getting sick. And so for those people, just know that you are seen. And you are valid, and we hope that more people take it seriously. because anyway. So something I have to definitely get that off of my chest, because I'm like, I'm always having those feelings. We're always having those feelings, but sometimes they need to actually be expressed. Anyways, what's up, Street Cat and Colin? This is the end of the Silver Spook Syndemic 2 group anti-think versus lone strugglers for the collective stream. Thanks everybody for watching. If you'd like to help us out, we appreciate any support through ko-fi.com/silverspook. Again, I mean, some of this might not be the happiest stuff to hear, but it is like what we feel is important for people to hear. It's not necessarily what is the most pleasant to hear always. It's sometimes people need to hear the medicine. The medicine is sometimes bitter, but that's what will actually make individuals and collectives better over time. Anyways, ko-fi.com/silverspook is where you can directly support us. You can also help us out at patreon.com/neofeud to give us ongoing support and to get access to Silver Spook behind the scenes, such as the Silver Spook Neofeud 2 work, which as I said, I'm almost done with Neofeud 2. This is some new games that we're working on. I'm working on with the mini Silver Spooks here at the Silver Spook Cooperative. It's a new Doom 3D based game set in the universe of Neofeud and Neofeud 2. We're gonna have another holiday hangout coming up soon, so look out for that. Silver Spook Holiday Hangout 2. It's a remote COVID conscious holiday hangout. Anybody can come to that, and there's no risk of being infected. It's all virtual. What's going on our trade markets, Neofeud 2 work updates, and much more. Plus, you get access to Silver Spook Discord and the Silver Spook University, over 1,000 hours of the content we have produced, categorized by topics when you become a Silver Spook Patreon member. So consider doing that. Again, I know this is not good for us financially. People don't want to hear the stuff that we're saying, but so we really appreciate anybody who does appreciate what we're saying. Please help us keep doing this, because it's rough times. YouTube creators, individual creators of all kinds, creative content producers of YouTube, other social media, Instagram, are getting whacked all over the place, as you probably know. So please help us out on Patreon if you can manage to do so. It really helps us out. Or Ko-fi. As we lose traffic and visibility. And here's the Silver Spook University. Some of it is obviously the health related threads and information. Over 1,000 hours of all the content we have produced here, categorized by topics. You can also get Neofeud on sale. Don't forget, it's on sale on Steam until December 17th. Neofeud is 70% off, and all the sales of this retro cyberpunk adventure game I spent 2.5 years working on is directly supporting us as well. Just share the game around, tell people about it, because YouTube and Twitter don't want to do that no more. So please tell people about Neofeud as well. All the word of mouth is greatly appreciated. And if you have a second to leave, even a very short review, it does help us get the game discovered in the Steam algorithm. You can also help us out at itch.io. Grab Neofeud there. There's also Decolonators, Pigeon with Gun, Woman, which is by Holly, critiquing right-wing Christianity. There's short story collections. And there's also on the Bandcamp, there's now, as I said, the Silver Spook Bandcamp site has Neofeud 2 soundtrack. And you can also get it on Ko-fi. So I'm releasing the Neofeud 2 soundtrack early, as I said, because, it's just something, because I probably won't be able to get Neofeud 2 released this December, even though I wanted to, but at least I got the soundtrack out there, because I'm still polishing and finalizing the game. I got to get a bunch of issues corrected. It's basically done, but I need to correct issues. There's some missing audio lines or bits that needs to be fixed up. I want to get that done before. I don't want to put out something too unfinished, too unpolished. You know what I mean? So, but the Neofeud 2 soundtrack is done, and now you can get that on Bandcamp or Ko-fi. All the music is human, not Spotify AI generated slop. It's all human composed music. I spent almost 2 months working on this soundtrack. It's over an hour of music, including a song that features Mexi of Positive Leftist News. Revolutionators, Holly and Mexi both sing on that track and do a very good job. So if you want that, check out the Neofeud 2 soundtrack. You can also, of course, follow at Silver Spook Games at wandering.shop. I got too many. I'm going to close all my links now. I got too many. At Silver Spook Games at wandering.shop. At Silver Spook Games at mastodon.social. On Twitter at Silver Spook Guy, or at Silver Spook Games minus the E in silver. You can also follow Holly at allergic to blue. Yeah, I got so much open. My computer is having a rough time. Now I'm gonna close this all out. Too many stuff open. Yeah, so you can follow myself at SilverSpookGuy or at SilverSpookGames for the games related material, and you can also follow Holly at allergic to blue. And Holly is of course a great moderator, link sharer, article poster, and of course does a lot of important care work and moderation work and other work here at the SilverSpook Cooperative. So yeah, thank you to all of our continued patrons. Massively appreciate all your support. Again, with all your support, it's hard to keep doing this work. So thank you for your individual choice. Thank you for your thank you, patrons, for your positive individual choice to financially support us to do this collectively, to do this collective work. Or for us to individually do work that benefits the collective. There you, in a positive way. Okay. Anyways, and until next time, keep mirror shades polished. Be excellent to each other. Man, I didn't realize there was giant plants with giant needles that can kill you like in that way. It's like Hellraiser plants in Central South America. So, have a good time, and we'll see you next time.